All right, we are live once again, I believe. There we go. YouTube is starting up, and we'll get Amazon going in 3, 2, 1. All right, we are live, and today we are going to be unboxing the new iPhone SE. I bought this the other day because I thought this would be a popular device to review on my channel. And the reason is that this is a very good deal for what it has inside. So here's the deal with the iPhone SE. It is $399, $400 unlocked. That's the one I got here. So this will work with, here in the US, any carrier that's out there. It has the same guts as the iPhone 11 Pro. That costs like $800 more, or whatever it is. But I don't know if it's going to perform the same. So what we're going to do is start my evaluation process. We're going to run some benchmarks on this and stuff. And we'll see how it really does compared to the iPhone 11 Pro, because I have one of those. And what I thought I would do in the stream here is just kind of unbox it, get it going. We're going to stream for about an hour. And then after I get it out of the box and set up, I'm going to run out with it and start collecting pictures and kind of get a good feel for stuff, because I really want to get this review up ASAP. Somebody asked me about my keyboard review last night. You know, can you really get a good sense of a product? I think they were upset that I wasn't happy with it. People get very sensitive about these things. People either hate Apple or love Apple. I like Apple. I love Apple because I use Apple products all the time, but they're not perfect. And sometimes they're going to make something that's not great. However, this is going to be, I think, a very popular phone because there are some compromises. And maybe we'll start with those compromises here. Let's take a look at while we're waiting for people to come in. I actually set up a little link. Actually, this might be a good opportunity here to set up something else that I want to try. So give me 1 second, folks, because I'm going to attempt to do something real quick that I've been meaning to try, and I want to do this real quick. So let me just download this little app that I want to do first, and then we'll unbox this thing. So we're going to download, where's the screen sharing thing? I'm going to download. So I'm still playing around with vMix, and I got to say, I am super pleased with how it's performing. In fact, I am going to be building, we're going to do a live stream again, obviously, because it's always fun to do that. I'm going to be building a new PC, and we're going to make that PC dedicated to this task. So I'm going to use the GPU that I took out of my gaming PC, because vMix requires those, and then we're going to build a whole new system around it. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm eager to talk about vMix too and how I've been using it. So I've been running this on my Lenovo gaming laptop all week here, and it's been great. So I kind of did like the vMix challenge for this week. I wanted to see, can I run vMix exclusively for a week and have it do what my TriCaster was doing, and it seems to be doing that. So I've been quite pleased with that. So we got a bunch of people in the house here. We got Peter. He wanted me to say his name. Your name has been said. Recipe Bob is here. We've got Drewy, who hears that the camera has a 12 rear-facing camera, be 1 megapixel weaker. Yeah, so it's a 12 megapixel camera, and actually I was about to pull up something, which I'll show you some of the trade-offs, because it's going to be very good, I think. And Apple has, you have to think of these cameras now as more than just the megapixels. And that's always been the case, because the size of the sensor matters too. So for example, a digital SLR with 12 megapixels is going to look better than a phone with 12 megapixels, right? There's a trade-off there. But additionally, the other factor here with these phones is the software side. And Apple in particular has some tremendously good software processing that they're doing on their images after you take a picture. So I think people are going to be really pleased with the output of this phone. But this is not the only game in town. And a good example of how this is not the only game in town would be the Google Pixel 3a. But I think, and again, we're going to find this out when we unbox it and start doing everything, I think, though, the big difference with this phone is the fact that they've put in the processor that's in the flagship phone. So, for example, if you were to go out and buy a Pixel 4, you'd have the flagship processor on the flagship phone. The Pixel 3a has the same camera as the Pixel 3, but it has a weaker processor. This one has the same processor as the much more expensive iPhone 11 Pro, and I think that's the big story with this. And I'm just trying to pull something up here real quick, folks, and then we'll get to the unboxing. I like to give it a little time for people to come in as well. So we've got Nicholas Altman is here. We've got Denny from Oklahoma. Welcome. JFSZ says the problem is the screen. Yeah, I'm expecting this to look exactly like the iPhone 6S, which I have here ready to show as a demo. So I think that's going to be a thing there. Zam says Apple has changed so much. Remember when we had only 2 versions? Yeah, they've got a lot of different versions. So right now you've got the iPhone 11 Pro, the iPhone 11, the SE. I think they're still selling one other one in that mix also. They've cut back the SKUs. For a while they were selling the 7 and the 8 at the same time. It was very confusing. So they've cut some things back a little bit. Let's see. Any truth to the matter that the A13 is being underclocked? We will find out very shortly. I suspect that it is, because it'd be crazy if they didn't underclock it. And it could be, less memory too. I don't know what it's got for RAM. Apple never publicizes that or publishes that. And it's a matter of size too. I mean, some people really liked the old SE, which was the size of the iPhone 5. So there was very odd story from my childhood. I was a fan of Subaru when I was a kid. Loved the Subarus. The XT, the little sports car, great car. And one of the things that Subaru did is they had like the GL line of cars and then the DL. So when Subaru changed their design, I think in '85, they had this beautiful new design for their station wagons and sedans and everything. But they kept the old design in the DL model, which was like the economy line. So you could go out and buy the new car with the new body, or you could buy a new car with the old body. And that was I think that's kind of what Apple's doing here. This is, the same framework as before. So, yeah, so that's it. And I think there's a huge market for smaller phones, which Apple wasn't really meeting with an affordable device. They had the original SE, which was the iPhone 5S, essentially, at least in size, and that was very popular because people liked the small phone. This is bigger, but it's not as big as an 11, because the regular 11 is huge, and then I have the 11 Pro here, which is not huge. So I like this size. So that's why I went with this one, because I don't like big phones. And this one is smaller. Chanfley wants to know if I've seen the NVIDIA RTX voice. Yes, I have, and I have the hardware to do it. I need to play with that. That's cool stuff. I want to play with the RTX voice because I am often dealing with, so like the other day when we were streaming and the lawnmower guy was here, right? Like it filters all that out. I've been watching people like put vacuum cleaners up to their microphone. It just disappears. It's amazing. So we'll have to, I'm going to play with that for sure. Okay, let me check one thing here. And just want to see how we're doing on my stats. We're okay there. And I want to get my screen casted over. So let me go and do that. Yeah, now the one thing the Pixel 3a from Google had that I thought was nice was that it had the OLED screen. This is not an OLED screen. So that is something this doesn't have. And we'll check and see if it has a headphone jack. I don't think so, but we'll find out. And give me 1 second here. I just want to try one quick thing, and then we'll get to the unboxing. That's going to be fun. And David Tuttle makes a very good point about phone purchases. I used to buy a new iPhone every year, and now, well, I kind of still do sometimes. I guess if I'm reviewing them, I do it. But this past cycle, so I bought a new phone every year from 2007 until the iPhone 10 came out. And then I didn't buy a new one. So when the 10s came out, I did not upgrade because my 10 was perfectly fine for me. The only reason why I went with the 11 Pro was the cameras here on the back. And the fact that they're going to have some ability to do multi-camera recording out of multiple cameras simultaneously, because I do a lot of video, obviously, so that made more sense to me. But yeah, I'm not a, you know, the market has matured on these for sure. All right, I'm just going to try something here real quick, folks. Give me 1 second. I'm going to add an input. I just want to see if I can bring in my Mac's display. Oh, look at this. Ooh, this is so cool. All right, so I'm going to do, give me 1 second here, everybody. I want to see how this works, because this might be really helpful. So I'm going to bring in, and let me see if it's going to give me the right thing here. Okay, so I guess I can bring in the application. And let's see if we get it. Oh, we do get it. Look at that. Very cool. All right, so I'm going to show you all something real quick here. And give me a second. This is awesome. I'll tell you, every day I find some new thing about vMix that I really like. And this is something, let's see if it works now. It's frozen on my, oh, it's frozen. It's not transmitting. Hang on a second. Let's see if I can fix this. So it's frozen here, but they have a nice comparison on their website. And I think I might have done something incorrectly here. So let's grab display 1 and just see if it brings that over. And, oop, now we have audio. We don't want audio. All right, turn that off. Okay. So I'll just make this full screen. And actually, I'm curious what the frame rate is. So we're getting 15. Yeah, so frame rate's not great here at all, but it works. Okay, so if you go to the Apple website, they have like a comparison, so you can see what you're giving up here. So, and again, we're going to put this to the test when we get through everything here. So you don't have the glass back on this phone, which actually might be a plus, to be honest. Has a slightly smaller display because you have to have room for the bezels, right? You got to have bezels on here because it's the 6S.
Look. Oops. Hang
on. Bear with me. I'm just going to kill the mic on my MacBook here. Okay. So you got smaller display, 1 camera versus 3. And so you don't have, you have basically the wide angle camera. I think it's the same camera as the wide angle on the Pro. I'm not sure about that, but I think that is the case. You have a FaceTime camera on the front of this one, 7 megapixels. Get this camera does 4K 60 on a budget phone. That's a good deal, so that's cool. But you don't get 4K out of the front. So the front only does 1080p at 30. No Face ID, you get a Touch ID. Same chip, but we'll see if it's clocked the same. Battery life will be, they say, the same as the 8. So you're not going to get the crazy battery life, I think, that you get out of the iPhone 11 Pro, because the battery life on that phone is amazing. It is water resistant, but not as water resistant. But base model, $399, 64 gigs. Good deal, I think, for an Apple product at least. Here's the display breakdown. So you don't have the OLED display. You've got just your regular LCD thing. So this won't look as nice, but Apple displays tend to be nice. It's not HDR. You definitely have a higher dot pitch on the iPhone 11 Pro. So you'll have 458 ppi versus 326. That's a pretty big difference. Much better contrast ratio on the Pro because that is, of course, running with a OLED versus the LCD. OLED always delivers much better display. It's just the nature of the beast. And I'm just checking something here real quick. Weight is a little different, about an ounce less. Maybe not quite an ounce, half an ounce or so. Actually, no, that's a full ounce and change, so it's much lighter. And again, you get slightly better dust resistance. Same chip. They don't say what it's clocked at. We'll find out. There's the camera differences. So check it out, 12 megapixels. I think it's probably the same camera as the Pro's wide. It's got the same aperture, same resolution. No night mode though, so you won't be able to do those fancy nighttime photographs. You do get optical image stabilization, so that's cool. I'm excited about this, 4K 60. I got another 4K 60 camera now. So what happens is I always keep an extra phone, because if I break, so my wife and I both have iPhones. If one of our screens break, we have to get them fixed, and you often are out of phone for a period of time. So we always keep, the 6S that I have now is like my spare phone, so whenever my other phones are in the shop, we switch over to that one. Front camera, and of course it supports all the different carriers here in the US, so there you go. All right, shall we get to the unboxing? Let me see if there's any questions, and then we'll unbox it and start playing around with it. Let me go back to my chat window here. Okay. Wow, lots of comments here. We got a lot of people watching. I should drag out this unboxing for a little bit longer. Okay. Signosis says the SE has 3 gigs of RAM. So I think that's less than the Pro. I'm not sure. Zaim wants to know if it's going to be better than the 3A. I'm going to look at that. Now, granted, the 3A came out last year, so we're at a point where we have some differences in time. So it's possible there could be a 4A on the way that might be more in tune to this. But I think Apple is going to, depending on the performance, and actually for the most part, what most people will experience for performance, this is going to be fine, right? So is anyone really going to split hairs over the fact that it may not be as fast as the real Pro is? Who knows? All right, just looking through some of the other chats here. Okay. All right, let's get to the unboxing. I'm going to record this actually, depending on how long it takes me to do my review. It's good to have something up. So better to have something than nothing. So we're going to record in 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, it's Lon Seidman. We've got another unboxing. Today I got in the iPhone SE, the new 2020 version. I think this is going to be a very popular device given its price point. This will sell for $399. That is probably a really good deal for an Apple device because typically their phones are a lot more expensive. There was a budget phone, if you want to call it that, within Apple's lineup for a while. That phone was the old iPhone SE. They stopped making it a little while ago, and there wasn't anything in that mid-tier category. This phone kind of changes that. So we're going to unbox it now, and then we're going to have a full review on my main channel at Lon.TV. And I should let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that I paid for this with my own funds. All of the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Nobody is paying for this unboxing, nor is anyone reviewing it or approving it before it gets uploaded. So we've got our usual stuff here. We've got our SIM popper and some instructions as to how to do that. Got your Apple stickers. I do miss the rainbow Apple logo stickers that I used to get with my old Apples. A couple little guides here just to getting started. And here is the phone itself. And you know what? It looks very similar, but not the same, as the iPhone 6 and 6S. So let's undo it here. I got the white one, it looks like. And actually, maybe it's the black one with the white back. So this is the iPhone 6S by comparison. Let me switch back over to this view here so you can get a feel for the look of it. So it's pretty much the same height. I think the screen is the same size. It's a 4.7-inch screen. The white bezels on the 6S I have here are a little deceiving because you can't really see the bezels here. So let me turn on the device here and see if we can get something on screen. There we go. And then the back is a little different. So it looks like the back is glass now. So that's a difference from before. So usually they used to have an aluminum back here. This feels glass to me. If it's not glass, it's got some coating over it that makes it feel like glass. So a little bit different there. What's neat about this phone is that they say it has the same processor inside as the iPhone Pro 11, which I have right here. And we'll see if that is going to be the same performance, because a lot of times they tune the processor down a little bit. Let's take a look at a couple more things here. There is no headphone jack that I can see on this, so they've definitely continued doing that. That's a disappointment. They had room for it. We know that. It's also not a stereo phone. I believe it's just mono. This is not a USB-C connector. This is Lightning like it was before, that proprietary Apple component there. You've got your power switch here, your SIM tray here. This supports dual SIM cards. One of them is an eSIM, and the other one you physically put in the phone. If you are upgrading from another phone and bought this unlocked like I did, you just swap the SIM card in and you're good to go. You've got your little silent mode switch here and your volume there. Fingerprint reader on this one, and not a, you don't have the Face ID thing, which I think is going to be good right now, because a lot of people are wearing masks outside, and the mask doesn't seem to work very well with Face ID, so you can just push your finger down here and open the phone up. This is not a physical button. It's capacitive, so it senses pressure as you push it down. So the 6S that I have here has a physical button that pushes. This one does not push physically, but it feels like it, because you get a little haptic feedback there. So that's it. We're going to get this thing set up now. I'm going to have my full review on the main channel very soon at Lon.TV, so stay tuned. All right, that was a good run. And I'm just going to check the clip and make sure that everything recorded properly, and then we'll get into setting the phone up. And one of the cool things about the Apple phones is that you can speed the process up. Give me 1 second. I'm just checking one thing here. All right. Just making sure I didn't lose any frames. I'm still playing around with vMix here, so I'm just checking the logs every time I do a recording, just to make sure that it's all on the up and up. Okay. All right, so I'm going to get this set up, and what I'm going to do here is I can transfer my my account information from one phone to the other by proximity. So if I hold up my, here, I'll show you what I'm doing here. If I hold up my phone's camera to this thing here, they will transmit to each other, and then that way it will get going. So pretty cool to not have to do all of the passcode stuff. So I have to enter in, your account is protected by the passcode on the other phone, your passcode, da, da, da. Okay, so I got to enter the passcode on this phone. So let me do that real quick. And then, yeah, it's definitely, I'm feeling like scrunched in a little bit, because it is a smaller device. And actually, I'm curious if you can wirelessly charge this. I don't think you can, but we'll find out. And it's going to take a few minutes to activate the phone. Now, I bought the unlocked version, so I shouldn't need to get a SIM card in this thing, but if I have to, I can pop it out of my other phone. It looks like the two things are transferring data to each other, so I got to just leave them here. So Alpha Max says it's going to be weird to go from a 6S Plus to the SE. Yeah, it's definitely a smaller device for sure, if you're used to that larger phone. And it's funny, because I went from a 6S to a 7 Plus, and the reason was the 7 only had the depth camera on the larger one, on the Plus. So I had to go up in size, and I wasn't crazy about it, which is why when I got the Pro, I went back to this size here. So we're going to set up the Touch ID sensor. And I got to say, I've been using Face ID, of course, for 3 years, I guess now. And, you know, when you're in the car, and look, I don't look at my phone in the car, but there's times when I'll issue a command to the phone. Let's see, I don't want to transfer data. I'm going to create a new profile here. So I don't want to download all my apps and everything. So, but when I'm in the car and I'll say, hey, lady, load up my podcast application, she'll say, well, you have to unlock your iPhone first, and then you've got to hold the phone up, you know, whereas before you could just do the fingerprint. Lewis says, what do you think of the next MacBook going with an ARM processor? I'll tell you what, if they make a 12-inch MacBook with an ARM processor, I am all over it. because I love my 12-inch MacBook, and I'm very sad they don't make it anymore. So I'm hoping that we see that. And you know what I'm going to do real quick? I'm just going to put this on my wireless charger here. Oh, it does wirelessly charge. Wow. I didn't know it did that. It just started charging when I put it on my wireless charger. Huh. Well, there you go. So that's why the back is glass. Now, that's cool because the Pixel 3a doesn't support that. Pretty cool. All right, I'm going to read the terms here. And settings from your other iPhone. The following settings can be transferred. Allow maps to use apps, or whatever. I give Apple all of my information. Yeah, this in my hand though, this feels exactly like the 6S. But the difference is that the back is warmer because it's glass versus the metal on the back of the 6S. I got to get rid of this phone now. I don't need two of these things. Yeah, so D. Tiergarten says, hey, lady, very Jerry Lewis of me. Well, the reason is I'm very sensitive to people who get upset with me when I issue voice commands. Oh, here we go. I may have to mute myself. I'll set that up later. I won't put you through the Siri setup. We'll do that. Home button haptic you can choose. Oh, yeah, that feels good. So it's got some haptic controls for the button. Ooh, that feels like I'm pushing it. It's got a nice little bump to it. All right, we're going to keep the display at the same thing here, and we'll get started. Here we go. We're in. I'm noticing the display is a little on the dim side. So what I want to do is, I'm just trying to remember where everything is here. I want to make the screen brighter. So let me go into the brightness settings here. Where is that? And pull down on this side, maybe. Not that side, this side. Where's the brightness? Yeah, we'll go into here and do it. So I just want to make the screen a little bit brighter here. And the first thing we're going to do actually is download the speakers are pretty loud on this too. I want to download yeah, so I'm just going to blast the brightness here so you can get a feel for, it's pretty bright. Not as bright as my 11, I will say that. But it's pretty good. Let me put on my Do Not Disturb. What am I missing here? Why am I not seeing, oh, there it is. I got to go from the bottom. Okay. So I'll turn that on. There we go. Okay. And unlock. Okay, we're good to go. So the first thing I'm going to do is go out to the App Store, and we're going to grab the 3D Mark benchmark. That's what I want to run first on here. And we'll see what we get. Because the big question will be whether or not this is running at the same clock speed. So we always run the 3D Mark slingshot test. So we're going to download that to the phone right now. All right. So Alpha Max says his 6S Plus connector port barely works and doesn't charge, only if he has his battery case on, so the wireless charging. Yeah, I use the wireless charging on my phone now almost exclusively. I've got a little dock on my nightstand that takes my watch and the phone. And then I have, so when I do my Amazon streams, I don't know if I can show you, if I can get it on here, their app, I have to run the Amazon stream or manage it through their app on the phone. So rather than, what I do is I leave it docked in my little charging base there, and then I just I leave the screen on, so it just doesn't lose any charge. But the wireless charging is really convenient. It's really a good way to go. I'm really happy that they have wireless charging on it. All right. Let's see. Has your 6S been feeling really dated lately? Yeah, I haven't used my 6S. I used it, the last time I was really using it was when I dropped my last phone and broke the screen. So I had to go about a couple days with the 6S. So I think I run Slingshot. Yeah, I think that's the one I run. Let's try that first and just see how it compares. So the back is glass. And that, of course, is going to create, the whole market for replacements. So the glass adds the convenience of the wireless charging, but it's another thing to break because now you've got glass and you got glass. And guess what happens when you've got glass and glass? Things break. So actually, before we run this test, I just want to check and see if we have any updates for this phone. Let's take a look. I think we're good on updates. Software updates. Oh, there is an update. We should download this before we start benchmarking it. So let's do that real quick. Type in my password again. Sorry, everybody. We got to do a little update here before we carry on. Because if you don't do all the updates, then sometimes things don't work the way they're supposed to work. So that's it. Sir Mango says, hopes my family and I are well. Yes, we are doing very well. So, I wanted to talk about the my antibody test that I took. So I think I did that video last week about the antibody test. So there was an article. Let me zoom my camera in a little bit to get a better view of the phone when we bring it back out. There was an article in the New York Times about these antibody tests, and there's a group that's testing all the tests to see how accurate they are. And it turns out the one that I took is very good in the sense that it doesn't, it's not likely to do a false positive. So it's like 96% accurate on a negative. But here's the kicker. It doesn't detect the antibody all the time. So it is accurate. I think the accuracy rate on someone they know has the antibody was 67%. So I'm like, all right, this is interesting, because the American Public Radio just did a story on people that were at CES that came back sick, and they actually reached out to me, and I was talking to the reporter quite a bit, and she was also in touch with other attendees of the show who had similar issues when they came back, because like I said, I came back, I was totally sick, not like respiratory was a little bit part of what I had, but I was mostly like high fever and exhaustion. She found a bunch of other people who came back with similar symptoms. And I'll tell you what, after I got back, everyone around me was getting sick. It was crazy. So I thought maybe. So we managed to get that antibody test arranged. But the one they were using was from a company called Invitas, I think. It's a Chinese company. And that test so there's two different antibodies. You have the IgM, which is what you get when you first, by the way, we're still talking about the phone here. I'm just waiting for it to update. You get the IgM first, and then that subsides, and then the IgM, which is the long-term antibody, builds up. And so they're finding that you have to get the window right on these tests, because for the most part, you're going to be in a transitional phase from IgG to IgM. And then if you're longer out, like I am, because I was sick in January, then the IgM is the only one you're going to be looking for, and the sensitivity for IgM is really critical. So the test sensitivity for IgM is 67%, and there are other tests out there that are 90% sensitive or more. So I'm trying now to find another one just to see, because I think on the test that they were doing, and he mentioned this in the interview, that there's a 14, 16-day window where you really want to get that test done, because it's 80. I think they came up with 83% for either one or the other. So that's kind of the trick with that test. And that's going to be the next story here, is how accurate are these antibody tests when you take them. So we'll have to see. But yeah, that's it. Yeah, so I mean, it will take, if I, obviously this phone's not going to be my daily driver. It will take some getting used to have a home button again. I really do like the Face ID. I would love a little bit of both, because I want the Touch ID in the car. And like I said, I'm not looking at the screen, which is the whole point, right? And so if you make a request of the phone, launch the podcast app, for example, it will not launch it until I take the phone out and look at it. Not good. So and that was the first thing that when I switched to the iPhone 10 that I really missed about the 6S that I was upgrading from. I think that was on the 7, whatever it was. That I missed having that fingerprint reader, because when I made the request, the voice request in the car, I could just hold down the fingerprint thing and be in. It feels like it's the more recent one because I can just rest my finger here and you're in. So you just kind of press down. And again, it's not a real button. It's one of those capacitive buttons that measures pressure. And they got rid of that pressure sensor on the screen, but they left it on the button. So this is the iPhone 7 home button. So they've kind of taken some of the other components, right, of the other phones, but the aluminum frame here is the same as the 6S. And you don't have those antenna bands because they're not having to put, they have glass here. They can have the antennas run underneath the glass, although they are on the side. Yeah, it feels nice. Lightweight phone. Feels, in my hand, it feels exactly like the 6S, minus the glass back on the screen. It feels very similar. I'm just waiting for this update to go through, and then we'll do some more stuff. So Sandman says CarPlay fixes. Yeah, so I don't have, my car doesn't support CarPlay, so then it doesn't work for me. Although in my wife's car it does. So, when I'm in my minivan, that's when we're using the CarPlay. And I'll tell you what, that minivan is great. We got that Toyota Sienna. I love that thing. All-wheel drive. It feels like a car. It's a really good, it fits all the kids in the stuff and everything else in it. Yes, so everyone, Eric is saying, hey, you might buy this one. I hate to break it to you. I'm not going to sell this one. This is going to be my spare phone. And there's a reason because I buy these things blindly, just like I did with that keyboard case I reviewed last night, because I like to really experience them. So I was very pleased that it has the 4K 60 recording. And I'm going to be using this as an extra NDI camera here around the studio. So we're gonna kind of integrate this into the workflow. And then it's a spare phone if I ever break my phone. Aiden Hickey is here, welcome. And once this update is done, we will run the 3D mark test, which will give us a good indicator as to how it performs. And let me just see which one I have on the phone now. So this is my 11. Here, if you're curious, here's how they stack up together. So this is the new SE next to the 11. And the 11, basically, they got rid of all of the 11 Pro. They got rid of all the bezels. They kept the notch up there for the Face ID, but you just have a big screen on the front versus the little bezels you have there. Let me see what 3D mark I was running because I'm curious which one I had installed. So I had Slingshot, and then, okay. So I think I'm running the right one. So we'll wait for this to finish updating, and then we'll pop back in. So how's everybody doing? Are we all good? Healthy, hopefully? I don't know when this is going to end. I think some of you may see an end before others do. I really miss New York City because I go into New York City a lot, or used to, and I really miss going into the city. So I'm eager to get back there. Eric says, yeah, we got a 2012, he has a 2012 Sienna. Okay, he's got the Sienna all-wheel drive. Yeah, it's a good thing. You know what I want to try to do with my Sienna is put in that aftermarket kit that gives you the Tesla autopilot kind of features. It won't be as good as the one on the Tesla, but it does lane keeping and stuff. I want to try installing that. Lewis says we're not going to get more tech. Yeah, and so this comes back to that story that I was just talking about that the American Public Radio did. It's becoming very clear that CES was likely how it got to the U.S., at least initially. And in the story, what's been interesting, if you can go to APM Media, I think is the website, what's interesting is that the Silicon Valley was an early hotspot in this whole thing because it got there. And they're finding now through the antibody testing that it was quite prevalent. And actually, the APM people were pretty good. They managed to figure out how many people from Wuhan were there. There was well over 100 people from Wuhan at CES, at least. And of course, that doesn't account for people from China who came in contact with people from Wuhan after they were starting to travel for the Chinese New Year and stuff. So it's a very interesting story. And like I said, I'm not done with my antibody testing yet to figure it out. Soundman says in Tennessee they're going to start to try to reopen next week. Yeah, I hope people are really careful about how they do that. And I think you can do it in places where you don't have as much spread. I expect it's going to be a lot of opening and shutting. So it's going to be a very disruptive year, I think, until we get the vaccine ready. And Spike Blighty says he's got the original SE. I think you can get, he's saying it's still going strong. And I think if you really go with a new battery every once in a while, you can keep these things going forever. Because like the only reason why this phone is not as good for me at the moment is that the battery is shot. So when I was using this as my replacement phone, it was like, you get like 2 hours of battery life out of it because the battery needs to get replaced. But if you keep those batteries up to date, you're going to be fine. We're just waiting for the update to go through here, and then we'll run the benchmark. And that will answer the question as to whether or not this is clocked differently. And I expect that we won't see this running as fast as the 11 Pro. And it'll be for a couple of reasons. One is it doesn't have 3 cameras, so it's not going to do all the image processing, perhaps. And we'll see what happens. And we'll see where it goes. Yeah, they canceled NAB. I wasn't going to go to I don't usually go to NAB. I partly because like there's not much. I don't get a lot of traffic from the production stuff that I do. So I don't do a lot of NAB kind of coverage. Sorry, I'm just adjusting some audio stuff here. But I would love to go again just because it's fun to see all the toys. And I will be doing a vMix show soon because I am really happy. We're running vMix right now, and it's been working great. I've had a few little glitches that I've found here, and I've made some decisions about how I'm going to build my system around those things, but it's been good. I bought a new NDI box. I bought the Spark Plus from NewTek because that supports 4K over NDI. But my system is going to have a Blackmagic deck link. It's got 4 HDMI inputs that can support 4K up to 60. So my 3 main cameras, the overhead, this one, and the one that's on me right now, those 3 are going to be brought in over HDMI like I'm doing now. And then I'll bring in the extras over NDI. And what I love about vMix is that it just runs on anything that can support it. So my laptop has been running the channel all week. It's running it right now. That's been fine, all the recording. Oh, the update is ready. Thank you. I'm blabbering away here. So we're going to get that update going. Saturn, yes, it's still Lightning on this one. So the only iOS device with USB-C is the iPad Pro. Although I would expect we'll see USB-C making its way into into the other stuff soon. Cedar Lake is here. Yeah, this is going to be a real competitive phone against the Android phones because there's a lot of popular mid-tier phones. And mark my words, and this is going to come with a caveat, this will be the best-selling mid-range phone. It may be the best-selling phone out of all of them, but it doesn't mean it's the market leader because, remember, Android is made by a number of different manufacturers. So if you want an iPhone and you want a cheap iPhone, this is the one you're going to buy, right? On the Android side, you've got a lot of choices. You can buy whatever, OnePlus, you can buy a Pixel 3a, you can do, there's a bunch of different phones you can get. So that's kind of the thing. This will be, I'm very certain, will be the top-selling phone this year. And I think for a couple of reasons. One is that the economy is, even after we start going back to work, the economy is not going to be great. So people's budgets are going to be tight. And if your choices are a $1,200 phone or a $400 phone, which one are you going to get, right? And what I like about this phone is that the price unlocked is $400, So I'm sure we're going to see a lot of carrier incentives that'll, they'll trade you the phone in exchange for a 2-year contract or whatever. So it's going to be good. Yeah, and JFZ makes a good point too. If you don't like it, you can sell it. Get rid of it. Get an Android phone because it's unlocked, right? Just buy it, use it at your own discretion there, and that's it. Ooh, it's getting kind of warm as that update's going in. I can feel that processor heating up. What I'm going to do real quick here is just throw it on the charger just to get it, keep the charge good on there. And here I'll show you, with the magic of NDI, I will show you my charger. And this came in, the charger that I'm using here came in free of charge from the Amazon Vine program. All right, so let me cut over. I got to add the camera to my thing here, but I'll show you the. So we're going to bring in Lon's iPhone. There we go, and we're going to go. Boom. Okay. Oops. Whoa. Okay. The one thing with vMix is that it brings in, like, the audio is defaulted to on all the time with everything. So I've got to always make sure I turn stuff off here. So let me just do that. So yeah, so this is a Belkin charger. And what I like about it is that your phone can stand up in it. And then what you can also do is have it in that orientation too. It goes both ways. So it's kind of cool like that. And if you're curious, this is what my vMix display looks like right now. And check it out. Like, we've got all these cameras running, and we still have about 70% of the system that's available for use here. It's kind of neat. And the usage would actually be less right now if I wasn't using NDI for the cameras coming in. So when I disable the iPhone here, that will free up some CPU resources. I'm finding the NDI is a big CPU killer. But all of this stuff going on, for vMix, for what you see, is mostly being done in the GPU. It's kind of interesting how it makes use of each of the high performance components you have. But all of this is just being run on this Lenovo gaming laptop. It's pretty cool. And then I can switch back to me. I'll turn that camera off, and then I'll close out that input. Boom. And we're almost done with the update. Soundman says, I'm going to pretend that you are talking about TriCaster. Well, here's the thing. I think what the choices are when you're looking at production hardware and software, vMix is certainly very affordable. What I like about it is that it lets you do, you can do whatever you want, but you might hit the wall on your hardware. The TriCaster is great because if you don't have time to mess with it, you just want something that you can turn on and work with, it's certainly worth every penny for that. But for me, I've got time to get things configured and figure out what the limits are and then kind of go from there. But I've been really surprised this has been working as well as it is, because I did not build a computer for this. Again, it's a laptop, so you have all of the thermal limitations that you might run into with that. So it's been working pretty well. Let's see. What else? I'm just waiting for that update to finish, then we'll get back to the fun here. Troy Campbell says, the 6 and 6S phones have both become useless. They reboot almost every time you try to use them. Planned obsolescence. I would bet you it could be the battery, and you might want to change the battery on those. The batteries seem to be the things that really screw up the most. But you could also be hitting the end of life on the flash memory. So if you've been writing to the flash memory a lot, that could be an issue. And yeah, these are, when you think about these things, these are computers that are on all the time, right? And there's certainly going to be some issues there. All right, let's cool it off a little bit. Wave it off. It will get warm when you are doing the wireless charging, by the way. It's just par for the course. Wireless charging is not very efficient. You're losing a lot to heat when you do that. All right, so I'm going to load up the 3D Mark test. And I think what I run on this is just the regular 1080p slingshot, because that's what we've been running across all the Android devices too. And this gives you a really good idea as to how it might stack up against another phone. So we're going to run the unlimited test. And what this will do is run off screen. So we're not going to see the demo. You see how it's generating these. I'll put the camera up closer here, or too close to the camera. So it's generating these these frames off camera, so or off screen. So it's not waiting for anything. It's just doing the rendering through the GPU, and so you get a very consistent result from one to the next. And it's whipping through this test. This is going a lot faster than it does on the Android phones when I run it. This is the CPU portion of that test. I think this one will be a little slower. But it just whipped through those two graphics tests. And I'll pull up when this is done, I'll pull up the results I got for the iPhone 11 Pro, and we'll see how it compares. So you can see how this one's running a little slower. This is the CPU test, and this one will eat up a little bit more. And like I said, I like this test because it works both the CPU and the GPU. And I don't like to focus too much on benchmarks. Here, you know what we'll do right now, just for the heck of it? We'll run it on my other phone here. Let's do that real quick, just so we can do it like right here and you can get a sense. So again, we're going to go to Slingshot. Again, this is my 11 Pro, but I want to go to the other Slingshot test. So let's go to Slingshot, and we'll do 1080. And let me just turn on my Do Not Disturb so nobody calls in the middle of it here. And same exact test, and we'll see what the results are. Because they say this has the same processor inside, so let's see if that is the case. And again, it's whipping through that first part like it did before. Lewis wants to know what I'm going to do when I hit 300,000 subscribers. I don't know. We'll see. I'm growing. I grow very steadily. I don't grow any faster or slower than I do from one year to the next. But it might be fun to do a little special or something. Maybe we'll have a live stream to commemorate that. All right, now the CPU test is going again. It's going to be a little slower on. Okay. Oh, so, all right. So yeah, same chip, different clock speed. Confirmed. So there you go. So it is the same chip, but look at the speed difference. So you're not going to get true iPhone 11 Pro performance here. And let me show you, if I can get in a little bit closer here. Let's see if we can get it to focus. There we go. And I'll record all this in my spreadsheets. So 129, so it's about 10 frames per second slower graphically. And then the physics score is about half. So it looks like the CPU clock is the more significant reduction here. So the CPU is definitely clocked lower. The graphics are clocked lower, but not as much. Let's see if I can get that to focus. And actually, I'm curious now, because I ran, let me pull up my spreadsheet where I record all this stuff. So let's go into my spreadsheet here. And let's take a look. And I'll do a couple other things while I've got you all here. We'll try out the portrait mode in a minute. Give that a shot. Because the portrait mode is going to be very different on this because it only has a single camera. So it's got to do it all in software. And I think they were doing that on the iPhone 8. So I think they've got the code there to do that sort of stuff. What I'm doing right now is pulling up my comparative spreadsheet thingy. And I will beam my screen back to my vMix thing here. So let's pull that up again. And I'll show you what I'm looking at. Because I'm going to add this to the spreadsheet. So let's go over to vMix capture for, so go to display 1. All right, and we're up. So let me pull this up here real quick. And I'm going to go full screen. All right, so let's go find. We're going to go down to, oops, it did it again. Hang on. Off. Okay. All right, so we're going to go down to the slingshot test. And again, I run the same exact test on every phone that I run. So when we ran the iPhone 11 Pro, You know, it's interesting. I got a higher score when I first got the phone, but I also didn't boot the phone up in this instance from scratch. So I think there might be some background things running that might be making that score a little bit lower now versus earlier. But still, like, that's a huge difference, right? Between, oh, I'm sorry. No, wait a minute. The iPad Pro 11, hang on. Yeah, so we came in right where, for the iPhone 11 Pro, we came in exactly where I had before, so that's good. All right, so let's go over to we're going to add a new one here. Now, this phone is just slightly below what we measured on the XS. Now, I mentioned that I didn't get an XS, but my wife did. I got one for my wife, so I kind of did buy a new phone that year. It's iPhone SE 2020. And we got 7,815. And I may run this again just to see if we get any differences, but I don't think we're going to. 129.65. So graphically, as you can see, it's a little faster than the XS. And it's definitely faster than the iPhone 10. 58.32. And then we're going to look at 85.72. Oops. But look at, this is the big number here. So look at 85 on a physics test, which is very CPU driven, versus 115 on the 11 Pro. So yes, it's the same chip, but it's not performing the same. So there you go. But let's dive in a little bit. So if we look at, you know, I think I can protect that so you can see. Yeah, this will be good. So now as we scroll through here, you can see it's much faster than the iPhone 8. You can see that it's faster than the Shield TV Pro, right? At least on this test. It doesn't mean it's going to be faster for everything you do. Samsung Galaxy S8. Much faster, and these are older phones. But let's look at the Pixel 3a, because we have to go down a little bit to find a comparative phone here. Pixel 3a, look at that difference. 2528. Oops. So it is much faster than the Pixel 3a. Look at that. And then I recently looked at the Motorola One Action. That's another phone that comes in around this price point. And look at that. Let's scroll down a little bit here. Oops. So that one, big difference, right? So this is the kind of stuff that you're looking at here. Is a very big performance boost over a lot of those lower cost phones, but it's not delivering the performance that you'd get out of the 11 Pro, even though it's running the same processor. So there's always a disconnect between marketing and reality, and that's important to note here. So we're going to add that to my list of things to talk about. Okay, bunch of questions here, so let's take a look at a few of those, and then I'll do our test. Wow, I got lots of comments that came in here. So Spike Blighty says the vMix has been working much better, so that's good. Yeah, YouTube did not like what the TriCaster was outputting, and Amazon was doing better with the TriCaster output. Here, let me do a photo here, and let's see how we do here. So I'm going to flip it around here. I'm going to go to portrait mode. And I'm just going to take a picture. Okay. And let's take a look. I need a haircut. And then I think I can adjust the, this is out the front camera, by the way. I'm pretty sure I can adjust the amount of, so I can do the studio lighting effects. I can do, and this is where if you have, we've got that phone, that chip, so the chip can do all this stuff that you can do on the more expensive phone. It just won't do it as fast. And I think there's a way I can adjust the level of blur. Let's see. Brilliance, highlight, shadows, contrast, brightness, black. I'll mess around with that. But yeah, so that's the front camera. Again, that's only 7 megapixels out of the front. So then we'll take my coffee mug out here. And I'm going to go take a lot of pictures today too and mess around with that. So we'll flip the camera around and I'll just do a little portrait mode photo of the mug. And yeah. And I need to like go outside with this thing and actually take some real pictures with it. But yeah, looks like it works. Not bad. Definitely the display is nice. I mean, it's certainly crisp and clear. But if you've been looking at the OLED displays that you get on the Pixel 3a or the iPhone Pro 11, it's certainly not as good. It definitely is reminiscent of the 6S display, which isn't bad, but it's not great. And of course, it's a lot smaller too, so you don't have all the fanciness that you get out of the other stuff. Let me scroll down here a little bit. I'm missing a whole bunch of chats here, everybody. I'm really sorry. So Stacy Luster wants to know, how big is the SE? The SE is exactly the same size as the 6S. So I'll put the two together here and you can get I mean, they are exactly the same size. In fact, they look the same from the side. So they took that frame. The difference, of course, is the back is not aluminum, it's glass, so you can do the wireless charging. No night mode on the camera, that's correct, one-man show. Let's see. Oh, so you guys guys and gals want to see the 6S for performance. So let's pull that chart back up again, and I will show you. I may be looking at the chat past the point in which I did that. That could be. And it may be that I didn't run this on the 6S. Let me take a look, because it's been a while since I had the 6S here. So let me just pull back up that screen. And yes, my audio will come back in again, so I got to make sure I turn that off this time. Display 1. And bear with me here. I'm just going to kill the audio. All right, so let's cut back over. So you want to know where the 6S is on this chart. So let me pull down the SE 2020. And the 6S is right here. And I'll zoom in so you can see it better. So same test, same exact test. Oops, and there's your, actually this is perfect because the Pixel 3a, and granted this is one benchmark, so it's a statistic, but what's nice about this statistic is that I've been running it on every phone that I've reviewed here on the channel over the last 5 years, I guess. So it gives a good idea. If you're running the same test, you get a good idea as to what the differences are in how those processors work. So you can see here the 3A really does not do well on the graphics at all, although the CPU on the 3A is more powerful than the 6S. Isn't it funny? It's one or the other. That's how it usually goes. But you can see here really a huge difference. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. So that's good. Let me take a few more chats here. Anything else you all want me to try? Oh, you know what we should try real quick is a little game thing or something. Let's take a look at that. So let's pull up, I was playing with before because I was looking for something that could really show us the, a game that you would run on the that you would run on the 11 Pro, right? So I was thinking like there's a new version of Angry Birds that is augmented reality, AR. Where'd it go? So I was running it on my other phone earlier. So let me just download this real quick. Oh, that's the wrong one. I don't want to do that one. I want to do Angry Birds AR, Isle of Pigs. You know what's funny? I don't do a lot of mobile gaming because I feel like the games are just there to exploit people. So I just don't play them. I have the Switch. If I want to play a game, I grab my Switch. And I'm not a big fan of the touch display stuff. All right, so let me show you what we got here. So this is a augmented reality game. I hope I have enough room on my table here to make this work. All right, we're good. So it looks pretty good. I mean, it's you got the GPU going, you got the physics going. There's some haptic feedback here that I'm feeling at the bottom. And it seems to be, Apple does pretty good with the AR stuff. I'm really eager to see if they do a headset, what that experience is going to be like. And you can place the, point the camera towards a non-reflective textured, okay, there we go. All right, let me get a better view here for you. So I guess you can kind of go around it. Can I do it this close? Let's see. I guess you can do it that close. That's kind of funny. The shadows on it look really jaggedy. And to some degree too, you don't have as much of a screen here resolution-wise, so rendering you don't need to do as much. And let's just see if we can replace that. So I want to get a better view on the camera here. All right, so let's go to the next one. You can rotate the world by tapping the arrow buttons. Okay, so let's see. It's kind of sitting at the edge of the table here, but. But it works. And granted, this would probably run on a 6S too, so it's not, I'm not showing you anything that you can't do on one of the other phones, but. And Zosu makes a good point, the Apple Arcade. Yeah, if you're into mobile games, I think the Apple Arcade is a good deal because you're not having to deal with some of the exploitive practices in the industry. I listened to a great interview recently with the guy, one of the developers of NBA Jam, who's now taking what they learned on Quarter Munchers and applying it to these things. The problem is, people are spending like hundreds of dollars on these mobile games. I mean, it's scary, right? Like, it's pretty crazy. But yeah, it's a good phone. I think it's fine. It's fine. It's not, it's not the Pro. It's not as fast as the Pro, but honestly, I don't know if there's. This has been my issue with a lot of these iOS devices. Do you need all the? I mean, it has all this horsepower. I have no doubt that if they wanted to, they could boot Mac OS X on this phone, and I could edit Final Cut Pro video on it. They don't do it, but the phone is capable of it. So I don't think they've really tapped, what these phones are really able to do either. And everyone's, yeah, we're talking about the Flappy Birds thing. That was an interesting period of time, wasn't it? Somebody made an FPGA version of Flappy Birds for the Mister. I'm gonna have to check that out at some point. So yeah, it's good stuff. So yeah, I'm not finding anything to complain about here. I was not expecting to find anything to complain about. And it's been interesting because this, by the way, is not the only Apple device that is delivering a lot of value. So the other thing to think about is what they're doing with the iPad, because you can go and get that $279 iPad, and it is every bit as good as the iPad Pro was a couple of years ago. And for most people, it's every bit as good as the expensive iPad Pro is now. Because what are you going to do on it? Are you going to, I don't know, edit 4K video? It can do that, not as well. But it's powerful. I'm really, I did a review on this, on the 10.2-inch iPad. And I'll tell you what, I get a lot of affiliate traffic on that device. And I think it's the same with this. It's like, I need an iPhone, I want an iPhone, I want an iPad. Do I need to buy the expensive one? No. So there's a real shift in Apple's strategy. And I think it might be proof that we've hit the maturation point on these mobile devices. So the only way that you're going to find growth in the business is on volume, not margin. And I think that's what we're seeing with Apple now. They did it with the iPad. They experimented with that for 2 product cycles, the iPad 6 and the 7. And this one is the first iPhone. I mean, granted, the old SE, you can argue, was in that category, but they stopped doing it. But I think they saw something on that iPad that is prompting them to look at creating a phone that people can afford again. And I think that's where they're going with this. So Eric just ran the test on his S8, and the SE is nearly twice as fast as that. Yeah, they made it fast enough. And smartly, they didn't make it as fast as the $1,200 phone, although they probably could have, because it's the same form factor. Like, what's your excuse, right? These things are not that much different from each other. So, yeah. Zosu said the 6S had great power that was not tapped, and now it's getting utilized. Yeah, so the AR stuff, that AR game, if I had charge in this battery, I could show you that game would run on this too, but I don't, so I can't show it to you, unfortunately. But yeah, and so Apple, and here's the funny thing, because last night we reviewed a keyboard. So we reviewed a keyboard for the iPad Pro that costs as much as the entry-level iPad does. You could buy a whole iPad for what the iPad Pro's keyboard costs. So there's this weird thing they're doing, like, what's going on? Now, I will say this. I would say that $300 keyboard would be really interesting if I could boot up OS 10 on the iPad. And I'm telling you, that iPad could fully run OS 10. I mean, it kind of does with iOS. But that thing would be faster than the MacBook sitting on my desk right here if they just flipped the switch. And these processors are incredibly underutilized, even on the low-end hardware. It really is. So, yeah. Good stuff. So we're going to have a full review of this. What I'm going to do now, because I have to get some footage shot here. So what I'm going to be doing next is taking it out, getting some photos with it, get a little bit more experience with this, and see what's good and bad about it. And I'm going to try to get the review up tonight. And this is the thing, is that as an independent reviewer, I'm going to talk about this in an upcoming wrap-up video, actually, because you're disadvantaged to some degree, and I don't complain about it because you don't get anywhere by feeling bitter about stuff. Apple will never send me review units because I'm too small, and that's just going to be the case. And what I see out there, granted, if you're someone like The Verge, you got a huge audience, you're going to get the stuff anyhow. But Apple and many other companies at their scale, they don't pay people to review, obviously, but they exchange access. You can get an early unit. If we it's up to them to decide who gets the early units. So on release day, while I'm waiting for my UPS guy to show up, which was happening yesterday, everyone else has got their review up because they've had the phone for 2 weeks. So that's the trade-off, is that I got to hustle a little faster to get my review up because I'm not big enough to be on the radar screen. But I think Apple is also reluctant to send phones out to people that may not be huge fans. And this is not just Apple, this is other companies too. So, that's part of what I have to deal with. And what was funny was that I had planned my whole day around the phone arriving in the morning, so I could have really hustled on it yesterday. It didn't get there. It didn't get to me till like 5:30. And what's funny was the UPS guy all week has been dropping off at like 10 a.m. So all the stuff was, we've been ordering stuff from everywhere. So the UPS guy was like very consistently dropping off by noon at the latest. And yesterday was the one day he didn't wait, but didn't get here till the evening. So this thing actually shipped. This thing shipped from China. That's where it came from. I was tracking it. So yeah, good stuff. I don't mind buying the stuff. It just doesn't bother me. And what's been helpful is that because my viewership is at a point, it's not hard to find buyers for things after I'm done reviewing them, because I'm not going to buy stuff and just return it. And actually, if I can, it's kind of a nice viewer incentive if I can give you a good deal on something. Only one person gets the deal, but I can put it up on the store and sell it afterward. So that's kind of what I do with that. But really it's because here's the thing, and I see this occasionally. So the keyboard we reviewed yesterday. I should go get it and show it to you again, but it's upstairs, so I'm not going to get it now. But the keyboard I reviewed yesterday, it's so odd. If I don't love something, and it's not just Apple products, it's anything. If I don't love something, I get a huge amount of criticism, like, how could you not love this thing? And da-da-da-da. I'm like, look, it's my opinion. I don't like it. You can find a million other people that like it. There's channels that are like, this is the best thing since sliced bread. Let me go get it, because I want to show you what I'm talking about. Let me go get it real quick, and then I got to go, because I just want to show you what I don't like about it. So I'm going to go upstairs here and grab it real quick. Here it is. So here's what I don't like about it. I can't flip this around and use it like the other one I have, which is the regular keyboard folio thing. I can flip it around and use it as a tablet. This thing, it's fixed. I can't move it past this position. So the keyboard and trackpad are great. They really are, but it locks my iPad into being a computer. And that's not my use case. I have my 12-inch MacBook. I've got my regular MacBook Pro. I've got my Windows laptop that's running this stream right now. So it's hard for me to justify recommending this. Let me zoom this out for a second. It's hard for me to justify this purchase for me. Oops. And there's the other thing, right? If you go too far, the iPad pops off. So it's not cheap. It's very well constructed. I mean, the keyboard's great. I have no complaints with it. But for me, it doesn't work. And somebody wrote and said, I really like what you do, but shouldn't you have spent more time with it? Well, I really can't, for two reasons. One is I don't need to spend more time with the keyboard and trackpad to decide whether or not it's going to work for me. But the other thing is that I don't get this stuff until the day it releases, so I've got to really hustle to be competitive. And there wasn't a lot of viewer interest in it at all. Now, you can detach it easily. I get that, but I should, let me go get the other one because I want to show you. Let me go get the other keyboard that I usually use with it. I should have got that when I was up there because I want to show you why I like the other one better. And remember, we thought that the other keyboard was expensive. That it's like $180. Now, granted, it doesn't have a trackpad. But here's my use case with this iPad. So I use the iPad when I've got meetings to go to, and the way I usually use it is parked here with the case. So I'm reading something. Keyboard's attached. Look at that. Folds back, flat. I can do it like this. I can flip it around, start typing, get up, no detachment. Here, and again, this is my opinion. People have differing opinions. I'm totally cool with that. Here, I'm on here, okay, but I only have this orientation. So I could certainly pick it up, but it feels awful like this. Yeah, I'm not going to hold it and read, right? Or if I have to get up from the table and compare notes with somebody, because I do these meetings where I'm like around a table. I need to get up and move around. And then the other thing that happens with this is that I can detach it and get that experience again. But now I got to remember to take this with me. I got two things I got to carry around with me. You know what I mean? Like that's my complaint. And it's all about use case. And that's why, you know, I said in the review, I'm sounding defensive, and I'm not defensive. I respect people's opinions. But for me, it doesn't work. But it's crazy, like the amount of emotion that people have over a keyboard thing. And some reviewers are like, oh, this is the best thing since sliced bread because there's nothing Apple makes that they don't like. And that's cool. I get it. But for me, I'm like, yeah, $300. You know, it's nice. But like I said, I bought my kids an iPad for less than the price of the keyboard here. So that's what I'm getting at. And so you don't need a week of using it to figure out whether or not it's going to work for you. This thing, this is the second iteration of this keyboard case that I've experienced. So the very first iPad Pro 9.7, I bought the keyboard case for that, and it immediately clicked with me. I'm like, oh, this is awesome because the keyboard's now always with me. And when this one came out, I was even happier because now it's a lot thinner because the other one had the bump on it. Instant, like, got it, works for me because it works exactly how I use the iPad. I use the iPad like this, and I use the iPad like that. So that's been my gripe with it. So it's just funny though, like the emotion over products is, especially Apple products, is pretty crazy. And look, I'm not like trying to complain about other people and their review practices. I'm not accusing people of anything, but it's just, I think a diversity of opinions is more valuable to the world. And what's been interesting is that I got a lot of comments from people who use their iPad the same way that I do. So they said, oh, that's not good. And it was funny because I assumed, and I try not to like cloud my judgment with too many reviews before I review something. So my assumption was that this was going to work like the other keyboard because I have this experience on my Surface Go tablet. It flips around. And the first thing I did was like, try to flip it around and it wouldn't flip. I'm like, ooh. And it adds a lot of weight. So it adds like a whole pound at least to your iPad. So this is, you know, pretty good there. So, all right. I got time for a couple of questions here. Somebody said they wanted to ask a question that wasn't related to the iPhone. You were happy to ask because I've just talked about something that wasn't related to the iPhone for a minute or two. But I will tell you, when the review goes up later tonight, it will likely be positive for this phone because it's a good phone. iPhones are good phones. They're great phones. And this is an affordable, great phone that I think people are going to be very happy with. And I don't need a week to make that determination because I look at a lot of phones. So let me scroll down to the bottom here. And 0 to 9, yeah, so the good thing is, at least, is that you don't need to buy the new iPad to get the keyboard. And I think Apple probably was looking at this thinking, well, geez, we're going to sell a $300 keyboard. We better have a market for it. So that's probably why they did that. Lee wants to know, in my opinion, what's the best budget Android tablet for gaming? You know, I haven't looked at an Android gaming tablet in a long time. I don't really know of one. The ones that you see on Amazon are not good. I think there's a Samsung, not the Samsung I just reviewed, but I think there's a Samsung tablet that does pretty well. But nothing's as good as that NVIDIA Shield tablet was. That is really it. Shield TV Pro is out of stock, Lewis says. I'm not sure when it's going to be back in stock. Oh, you know what? I totally missed on my unboxing video. There's some other components in the box, so we're going to have to pick that shot up in a few minutes. So you get, in the box, by the way, you get headphones, lightning headphones, a charging cable, and a charger. And in addition to supporting wireless charging, faster wireless charging, it also supports the faster USB charging too. So if you have the USB adapter, you could get that. All right. Well, everybody, I'm going to go and run off now and start taking some pictures. And as usual, everybody pops into the live stream just as I'm wrapping things up. But the TLDR on this one, you're going to see a full review of this soon. I've got to do some more work on it. Good phone. It is the same chip as the iPhone 11 Pro, but it's not running at the iPhone 11 Pro speed. And performance-wise, it is better than the iPhone 8, but it's not as good as the iPhone 11 Pro. So that should give you an idea as to where it sits. And actually, that reminds me, because when the iPhone 10 came out, this is actually a very similar scenario to the iPhone 10 release. So remember, when the iPhone 10 came out, they also released the iPhone 8. And they had the same chip, but the iPhone 8 ran slower than the 10. Same chip, slower clock speed versus the flagship. So the one phone I haven't tested is the regular 11. And I don't know where that one falls on the spectrum of performance, but it would probably be better than this. So I think Apple probably tuned it in such a way that it won't knock the flagship out of contention. But again, there's nothing that really makes these phones go to their full potential anyhow. So I don't think you're going to miss much here. So yeah, good phone. Let's see what else is going on here. Oh, Clean937 Samuel, thank you for your super chat. Lee wants to know, is that iPhone the size of the 5? No, it is the size of the 6. So here's the 6S body. And I would bet you, and I don't know if I have any cases kicking around, I would bet you that the iPhone 6 cases will probably fit this device, because that was the case with the iPhone 11. The difference, of course, is there's no headphone jack on the top, so you'll have a hole in the case. But I don't see why they wouldn't work, because they're identical in thickness and size. Like they are completely, here, I'll stack them up next to each other here. They are exactly the same size. So yeah, I think they'll likely, if you're going from a 6S, and I bet you there's a lot of 6S users out there. I know one, and he may be watching. Doug Hardy, I know you're one. Here's your phone. So yeah, there's a lot of 6S people, and you can probably transfer your case over there. And Zosu makes a good point too. The clock speed might be a power issue. They're probably trying to save a little power. I believe that. But the battery life will be good enough. And that's also true, right? The camera cutouts might be different. Yep, you're right about that. So I take that back. The case might fit, but the camera won't. So yeah, it might be a little different. All right. Well, folks, I am going to go and take some pictures now with my new phone that I've unboxed, and we're going to yeah, Nick, it's funny, Nick, the other night when we were doing the vMix stream, Nick said he just freaked out Doug if he's watching. So I had Doug dial in. One of the things that vMix has that's really cool is that it can dial in. It has its own video chat feature, so I can give you a link, and then you click on it with your Chrome browser, and it brings you right into the production. So Doug didn't realize we were live streaming, and he just pops up on the screen and sees himself in the stream he's watching. So that was funny. ADZ12, I'll take this last one. Should I buy the iPhone SE or the iPhone XR? I think if you want a better camera and a larger screen, the iPhone XR is the better phone. If you want a smaller phone and just the single camera, because I think the XR has 2 cameras, this has just one. So it's a matter of size and budget. So this is a lot less expensive. But yeah, I think if you have a 6S and you go to this, it's going to be a huge jump. And it's not going to feel any different in your hand. So I think that'll make the difference there. Clean wants to know if my daily driver phone is an iPhone. Yes, so I use an iPhone 11 Pro, this one here. This is my daily driver phone. And I love it. I love my iPhones, partly because I have a lot of software on the Mac that kind of integrates my task management and that sort of thing. And I've tried to go Android, I really have, because I should be an Android person. But as I've gotten older, and as I've gotten into doing this video stuff, I've had less desire to tinker with things. I just want stuff to work. And from the standpoint of the business, with the Macs that we use for the business, like I said, like I've told folks before, I have a 2012 MacBook Pro Retina. It's going to be 8 years old in a month, and that thing is still Jake is using that to edit video on to this day. It just keeps going. That thing's not been turned off. That computer has been used every day for 8 years, and it's still going. So there's some value to things that just work for me. And Clean says it's better for me. That's right. And this is it. This is my point, is that people get so, and this is not anything new. When I was growing up, the big wars were over the personal computers that people were using. So the Commodore people and the Apple II people hated each other. The Atari people didn't like the Commodore or the Apple people either. Like, there was these huge battles brewing. And then it was Mac versus IBM and AOL versus the rest of the world. And you know what? Like, my thing is, because I've got to look at a lot of different things, I try to think about, like, what's the use case? Who will like this versus somebody who doesn't? There's people that love iPhones. I love iPhones. But I don't have a level of zealotry about it. But if you, as a creator on these platforms, if you say something good about an Apple product, this is going to be a good review. I think this is going to be a good phone. I will hear from people that, oh, you're biased with Apple, blah, blah, blah. And if I say anything bad about Apple, then I get people like, how could you not love this product as much as everybody else does? And the way I look at it is, I think there's value to being loyal to a brand, especially if that brand has been loyal to you as a customer. I get that. But these are multi-billion-dollar companies, and they don't need us to espouse and evangelize their products. They don't. And Apple has been masterful at getting earned media. In other words, media that they don't have to pay to get over the years, by having products that get people really excited and emotional. And it's hard. It's hard. And I'll tell you what. Apple for a long time, I think, really led the innovation curve, and for a couple of reasons now, they're not. People have caught up to them. Partly, you could argue that the death of Steve Jobs had an impact. I think Steve Jobs took more risks than Tim Cook is taking. Tim Cook is an operational guy. So if I'm a risk taker, I'm going to hire the operational guy to keep me from doing anything totally stupid, right? So I'm the risk taker, and I need that person with me to tell me when I'm taking too many risks. And so Tim Cook runs a good, tight ship. That company is profitable. They are cranking stuff out still. They're making money. They've got hundreds of billions in the bank just sitting there, because they really know how to make things work. But the risk taking, the spark, the creativity, the vision, Tim Cook's got some of that, but I don't think he's got the same vision that Steve Jobs did. And again, what made Steve Jobs work was that he had people like Tim Cook around him, and that's how this company really made things work. But what's happened is that I think we've hit the limit as to what the current technology can do. VR hasn't taken off the way I think a lot of people thought it did, because it's big and clunky right now. So it's going to be a matter of interfaces and how that stuff works. And how much more can you do with a phone? They all look the same now. You can buy an Android phone, it looks like this, right? It's a candy bar design. You got a big screen that you touch and you tap on things, and the network speed is getting faster, but it's not like you need any more speed. Even with this 5G stuff, it's just about more capacity than it is about speed for everybody. And now we're at a point where you can buy an iPhone, and 5 years later, if the battery still works, they're still not making software that really pushes the hardware to the max. When the iPhones are first coming out, they were pushed to the max upon release, right? So, like, we've hit this maturation point where it's hard to keep innovating. And I think that's why you're seeing Apple now retreating to saying, okay, we'll make a budget phone. Why not? We'll sell a lot of them, and we'll make money on the volume. And I think that's what's going on. And I do agree with Zosu here, because he's right in the sense that they do innovate a lot, in the sense that they are probably the only company. Samsung is also doing this to a degree, but Apple controls the entire stack. Samsung is still relying on Google for the operating system. So Apple, and this was a Jobs initiative, was they bought a company that made silicon. They designed their own processor. It's based on ARM, so they're paying licensing fees to the ARM people. But every component, for the most part, in this phone, minus the Wi-Fi radios and stuff, but the way the phone operates is designed by Apple. Processor, physical, industrial design, the whole stack is an Apple design. And I think that is why these products feel the way they do. They have, the touch screens are smarter than they are on Android. They interpret and anticipate gestures differently than PCs do on the Mac. And so yes, there's a lot of innovation going on, but we've hit the point where there's only so much you can do with the technology that we have. And I think what's going to happen now is we've got to look at crazy stuff like laser projection into the eye. Like that's the kind of stuff that we need next to really move these things forward. Because I'd love like a pair of sunglasses. Remember Google Glass? Like I had a pair of those, and I'm like, how cool would this be if I didn't look like an idiot wearing them, right? And when I was at CES, I want to say last year, somewhere, maybe it was at IFA. I experienced a laser projector for the first time. It was pretty amazing. So what it does, and it sounds harmful, and maybe it is, I don't know. It projects the image into the back of your retina. So you see something nobody else can see. And it looked really cool. It wasn't like, it was like looking at a screen being projected, but it was still like, wow, that's neat. So I think that's where we need to go. Middleman says AI is probably the next big thing. I agree with that. I think there's a lot of AI that we're going to see, more on the server side and more anticipation of needs. I think the NVIDIA RTX audio, which I haven't played with yet, is a great example of an AI implementation that's going to be even more critical. So we're going to see a lot of this big data stuff happening that trickles down to your services and your apps that you're running. But again, the phone hardware doesn't necessarily need to be faster for that. And so, yeah, there's a lot of these things that'll be kind of cool. But think about like how big a deal it was when Apple released the first iPhone. It was like groundbreaking. This thing is amazing. It does the web as a full web page, and it was a very different device than the world had seen. And we haven't seen, right? Laptops still are laptops. The iPad is becoming more a computer. Okay, yes, there's a lot that goes into it. I'm not panning it, but I think we've hit a maturation point. And if you find yourself saying, I've had my phone for 4 years and it's fine, that's the maturation point, right? There's not much more they can offer you that would get you to upgrade. Like people on the 6S are probably upgrading their phones, not because they don't like the performance, but maybe the battery is dead, maybe the phone's all beat up. That could be what it is. So, but yeah, I think we'll see, like some incremental things happening. But, until we have the neural connection or the projector into the eyeballs or something, maybe Apple will do a really cool AR headset. I'd love that. So that's it. And look, I'm not panning on Apple here. I'm just saying I think I've been doing this reviewer thing. Now, I've been a tech nerd my whole life, but I've been looking at a lot of tech and at the volume I've looked at over the last 6 years now. And when I first got started, every year there was something new and cool and different. You go to CES, like, wow, look at this cool thing. And now it's just like, okay, this is a nice incremental step above the last thing that I looked at. Like the iPhone 11 Pro is faster and much more capable than the phone I bought 4 years ago, the iPhone 10, or 3 years ago, whatever it was. But day to day, it feels the same to me. It's not, I don't look at this phone thinking, oh my gosh, it's amazing. I do to some degree, but it's not the same. And maybe I'm just getting jaded because I've been doing this for so long, but that could be what it is. We'll see where it goes. But I will say, what has been happening is that the performance that we're seeing work its way into PCs is getting tremendously better, to the point where I'm moving from a multi-$1,000 TriCaster to essentially off-the-shelf hardware to run this stream in the channel. So all of this week, as I mentioned earlier, we've been running, I'm going to wrap up here so I can get some work done on this phone. I'll pull it up again here just so you can see it. All this week, I've been using vMix on my gaming laptop. Let me just pull up this one more time so you can see what it looks like. And it's been great. So all the streams you've seen this week from me have been vMix. So you have to wait for the connection here to settle down. So this is my interface right now. The TriCaster is off at the moment because I'm using this laptop here. And it's all running through that. I've only got one HDMI device actually going into the machine itself. The rest are coming in over the network, as the camera is here. And even like this camera, this is network, NDI. Looks great. Looks the same as my HDMI input does. So this is great. This is off-the-shelf software, runs on your PC. It does everything my TriCaster was doing, at least for what I do with it. So, you know, we're seeing these incremental performance gains that do some amazing stuff and gives people voices that wouldn't have voices before. So that's all good. So that's it. All right. Well, I am going to start playing around with this phone, and you're going to probably see a review from me a little later this evening. So that's my plan today. The kids are not here. They went to the beach, and it's okay. We're not. The beach is fine. This beach is a private thing. Nobody else is there, but they are out of the house. So I'm going to try to get some work done and get this phone reviewed for later this evening. I will take. You know what I'm going to do? I am going to give another 5 minutes. So I'm going to close this out at 2:55 my time. And if anyone's got specific questions about the iPhone SE before I close out, because I've got like 400 people in here right now, that you may have missed during the stream as we were setting the phone up, I'm happy to answer now. So why don't you shoot some questions at me. Frosty Winnipeg just stopped in from Central Canada. Hopefully it's getting less frosty there. It's a beautiful day outside right now, which is why I'm excited to go out and take some pictures with my new phone here. Greg M says, people in Australia still get their iPhone 6s batteries and screen replaced by third-party repair shops for reasonable dollars. And one thing that Apple is starting to do now is actually anoint people to repair phones with official stuff. So that's been good. I'm going to install. Somebody asked about the speakers. Let me install my Plex app on here. Plex amp. Because I have some YouTube-safe music I can play without getting knocked off the platform here. And we can see how the speakers work on it. Ruby, I don't have the Razer Phone 2, so I can't give you a comparative to that. Signosis, do you have an iPhone 8 to compare it to along? Yes, so I just showed you earlier the chart, at least. I don't have an iPhone 8 here, but it is more powerful than the iPhone 8. In fact, the graphic benchmarks are about double the performance than what you see out of an 8. So it's better than the 8, at least insofar as the 3D Mark benchmark is concerned. Ear Mode wants to know, hello from Brussels. Does the phone feel as though it will slip out of your hand as it's rounded on the edge? Not really. I mean, it feels exactly the same in my hand as the 6S because it's the same body, essentially. It's a little slippery because it's glass on the back now, but it does support wireless charging. So I would recommend, getting a case for it, just so that, because it's more fragile than the 6S because it is glass on the back. Wait for my camera to refocus here. So it is glass on the back, and that's going to create a whole host of new issues because it will be another thing that breaks. Lewis wants to know the screen to body ratio. I don't know the exact ratio, but you've got bezels here, and by comparison, the 11 Pro is all screen. So it's the same as the 6S. Ruby Shot owns the old iPhone SE. Would this be worth the upgrade instead of upgrading to the iPhone 11? Again, it's a matter of screen size and budget. It's a bigger screen. It's like going from the 5S to the. Let's see, I'm just logging into my Plex account here. Got to focus on that for a second. It's like going from the 5S to the 6S, really. So the screen is bigger, but it's not as big as what you would get out of the other thing. So let's hear the speaker. It's good, nice and loud. It's mono, so I don't get, the sound out of my 11 Pro is really good. So it's not as good as the 11 for a speaker, but it's super loud. So if you got speakerphone calls, not a problem there. Rob Turner is here, hello. So yeah, the speaker is pretty good on it. Nice and loud. I should make a note of that as I'm putting my review together here, just to make sure that I don't forget to talk about the speaker. Because sometimes I forget to talk about things. But yeah, it's a good phone. I mean, I think if you want, here's what it comes down to is that I like the 11 Pro for the camera. And if I was on a budget and I didn't care about the camera, I would be totally fine with this because I like the smaller form factor. And when Apple killed the SE, so the SE for me was too small. I honestly, like my favorite form factor from the Apple phones that I've owned over the years has been the 6S and the 6 because the screen was larger, but my thumb could reach across most of the screen. And it was the right size. I don't like big phones. And I was very disappointed when they got rid of this form factor on the affordable phones. Because remember, when the 10 came out, you could buy the 8, which was this size. And then when the following cycle, they got rid of the 8. And then the option was the huge the 11 or whatever, the 10R or a 10S, whatever, the 10R, and the 11. The huge form factor, which they have in the mid-tier phone, or you spent top dollar, $1,200 and get the phone that was the size you wanted. So now they've got a size that is good. And I think if I was not in need of the camera system and yeah, if I didn't need the cameras, I would be all over this. And really, I was surprised. This does 4K 60 video. So that's great out of the back, not out of the front. The 11 Pro does 4K 60 out of both, so that's pretty good. Let's see what else. Yes, it's a mono speaker, so no stereo on this one. Oh, is it stereo and landscape signosis? I'll have to look. It's another thing I got to check. So that's it. I didn't even think about that. So let's make a note of a couple things here. One, wireless charging. I got to add it to my notes in a second. 2, speaker. And then we need to see the stereo. So that's a good, I didn't even think about the stereo thing. So let's see what happens when I, oh yeah, it is coming out of both. Yeah, I think it might be. So yeah, it's good. It's a good speaker there. So there's another question as to whether or not this comes with the dongle for the audio. It doesn't, but you do get the headphones. But I don't see the dongle. Yeah, I'm not seeing that in the box here. So you get the headphones, not the dongle. All right. But yeah, it's good. Yeah, so it's like a smaller 8, but it's more powerful than the 8. So it's got some of the features of the 8. It's more powerful. It is where the 8 would have been, but it costs less than the 8 did. It is Touch ID. So if we turn it off here and just turn it on, boom. And it's the newer Touch ID, so it's a lot faster. And the button is like the 8 was. It's not a button. It's just a capacitive sensor. So you push it down. It has some haptic feedback, but it lets you right in. And you can wirelessly charge it now, too, which is cool, like the 8. So, yeah, it's kind of like an 8. And that's what Signosis has been saying all along tonight. And I've just been like, well, it is the 8. But it is faster than the 8. What we did a little bit earlier is we ran the 3D Mark test on it. So it has the same chip as the iPhone 11 Pro, but it's clocked lower. So it's not as fast as the Pro is. But you're not going to notice it unless you can find something that does it. All right. Last question here. Robert Bradford, similar to the last generation iPod for comparison screen size. Yeah, I don't have the iPod anymore, but I think it's the same size screen as the iPod Touch. I do think that. So yeah, good stuff. So here's the deal, everybody. I'm going to go outside because it's nice out, and I'm going to go take some pictures. I'm going to take some video. I'm going to do a little bit more evaluative work on the phone. I appreciate everybody's feedback because I got some great notes of things that I need to make sure I cover in my review. And I want to thank you all for tuning in. We had a good amount of people on this stream, so this was a fun one to do. These products always get a lot of interest, and I think this one in particular because this is really an affordable iPhone for once, which I think is a good thing. So And it's a new iPhone. You can usually get an affordable used iPhone, but now you can get a new one that is quite affordable. So I'm going to end the stream here on Amazon, and I'm going to cut things off on YouTube. Thank you for the kind words, J.O. And I will be back again. So stay tuned. We're going to have this review up hopefully later tonight. And that's going to do it for now. Thank you all for watching and listening to me blabber on for the last 2 hours. Okay, we'll see you in a little bit, everybody. Have a good day. Stay safe. Wash those hands and keep yourself distanced until they tell us we can stop distancing, okay? I'll talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.